many people have put documents in which are not registrable. But they are still counting the time.
Okay.
Yes, so you can go and buy land that is government land. You didn't do a search.
For most of the apartments in these prime locations, they are restricting leases to 50 years and 45 years. What happens when the lease expires?
So everybody is only.
A number of people still do not understand why they buy land and then 50 or 70 or 90 years later, they have to go and renew it.
So
talk to us about that.
It's a principle of grant. Land.
People go buying land with money in their cars and with their checks ready to sign.
I've been here long enough. Most people buy land and rather check after the transaction.
Right. How do I detect a fake land document?
It's a chicken and egg situation. So one.
Now, by the end of this interview, I'll bring to you all the insider tips you need to know so far as acquiring land safely in Ghana is concerned. And we're currently at the head office of the Lands Commission, and we'll be speaking to none other than the Greater Accra Regional Officer of the Lands Commission. So we're getting the details from the boss himself. Let's head right into the office and you'll get to know more. Hello, sir.
Hello.
Thanks so much for joining us on the Real Estate Show.
Thank you very much.
We have
again.
I have been looking forward to this interview. You have no idea. Right. So let's begin with land search.
Yes.
What are the key documents that I need from the land buyer when I want to come and do my land search at the Lands Commission?
Hi, thank you very much. Following up from the first earlier interview that we did, the emphasis was on a site plan.
Okay.
And the site plan is just a piece of paper which would show the coordinates of the land on this earth, where the land is located on this earth. That is the first document you'll be looking for, because that will be the basis by which you come to Lands Commission to do a search. So your site plan is key as the base. However, if I've registered and I have a land title certificate, I want you to cross-check. I can ask that, how did you also get to own the land? I can make further inquiries about your documentation. The site plan will be essential in doing the search. But you are buying something, you want to examine your documents. So what we call investigating the person's title. You can ask, so for example, I have a land title certificate. Can I see the land title certificate? Can I write to the Lands Commission to confer? Under the deeds registration, other regions, you can say, well, I want to see your deed document, because you want to be sure that it's authentic. It's the same thing in the records of the Lands Commission. You can do so.
There are some land sellers or landowners who have problems giving you their documents.
That is the first sign to be uncomfortable when it comes to a land transaction.
Okay.
Why would you not want me to inquire about what I want to purchase?
Right.
So I'm asking you, I'm buying from you. Please, can you just give me the documents that you are relying on? Then I say, no, I can't give it to you. How can I investigate and know whether what you have is right or wrong?
Should we treat that as a red flag?
It is a huge red flag.
Okay.
It is a huge red flag.
Right.
And those who have their right documentation, it's easy for them to make it available to you for examination. So once the person starts becoming very slow to give you documents that you are asking for, it should be a big red flag.
Right.
Yes.
How do I detect a fake land document?
It's a chicken and egg situation. So one, what is a fake document? That is first thing you are asking for.
Okay.
That is either I am claiming to have registered something I have not registered.
Okay.
And the only way you can cross-check is if you do a search with the Lands Commission to authenticate whether I claim I have registered, but I have not registered.
Right.
The other side may be whether or not the person who I claim gave me the document is the one who gave me the document. So there are sides to it.
Right.
You cannot just look at an indenture and a deed and say it is fake. What is fake about it would be you claiming it is something that it is not. So I always say, look, if he says it is registered, the search will determine whether what he's holding is fake or not, because the search will give you the records.
Right.
If it's not the same document, then you have a challenge.
Okay.
And then the the other one may be if I claim I, Timothy, sold to you, and it was not Timothy who sold to you, and then it was somebody else who sold to you, then you may look for some other information, some other investigation.
When I'm given an indenture, what are the key things that I should pay attention to?
Yes, so an indenture, as you know, what we call popularly an indenture is just a deed. It's a contract covering a document. So first thing, what does the information on the indenture say about who is giving it to me? So I come and I say, I am a chief of a place. So the indenture should be able to speak to who I say I am. So I'm chief acting in concert with or I'm a family head. The indenture should say so. So the first thing is the parties. What we call are the parties. Is your name spelled rightly and all that? Fine. Then you come down, what we call the recitals. At the face of the document, you see how I claim I got to the land. So these recitals will be there. Some of these things may sound technical, but it's just a document, like many things, and you want to know. You want to know whether if it's a lease, how many years they have given to you. Then we call covenants. They are a list of things that you, the purchaser, would be bound by if you buy the land. So to build the land within this, to keep the land in a good tenantable, all those conditions will be spelled out in the document. So I always say people just look at the face, the front, and abandon everything, or are excited to have an indenture, but they don't go ahead to read the contents of it. So every single thing in that indenture or that deed would be important, but the key things is the parties, the term, and those things.
There was an instance where I did a land search, and from the results we had, a portion, it was a 70 by 100, so a portion of the land had the landowner's name attached. Now the other half had no name attached, but the landowner was like, it's mine. This is my land.
So don't believe the land.
Never buy any land in Accra, Ghana without running the necessary checks. You do not want to fall victim or end up joining the tall list of people who have fallen victim to land scam in Ghana. You can definitely reach out to us and get our assistance in helping you run your checks on that land you intend to buy before you make any financial commitment. Our details are in the description box. Also, you can search for us via our website www.harmonyhavens.com, and you will definitely get to find out all the needed details. My name is Ifeanyi. So now let's get back into the video.
Believe the search. And the search means that if he tries to transfer to you, only the portion that he has his name is what Lands Commission can work on in his favor. Yes, so he may go ahead. So assuming you went ahead and purchased that land, you believe that they've sold land to you, come to Lands Commission, we start rejecting the document and saying that Mr. A said he had 70 by 70, but in our records he has 50 by 40. So the additional bit is not for him, and therefore he should limit his grant to you to the area that he has. Because we speak to what we have in our records, and if your name is not on it in our records, maybe you had some arrangement with your landowner, but that should be evidenced by some documentation that Lands Commission.
But in a case where the other half of the land had nobody's name attached to it, means the land is not registered.
It's not registered.
But it's for someone.
So once again, it shows you how complex land administration is. If you transact with me today and you've never brought the document for registration at the Lands Commission, how does the Lands Commission know you've transacted? So, and I will set a particular example. I have a friend who has purchased the land somewhere in Accra. I visited him and noticed that the entire line ended somewhere, but his land had projected in front. So I said, oh, my good friend, why is your land further forward? So it's the road, it's like a road reservation, but he wanted to do a swimming pool, and he just spoke to the guys, and the guys allowed him to build. But that means his documents don't cover the swimming pool area. It covers only up to where the walls ended. But he believes it's his. So if he's going to sell that property to you, for instance, so it's mine. It's mine. But he knows that there's a background information where his ownership ended on a certain line in the swimming pool area. But his children may inherit it, believing my dad owns the entire land. It had to hunt him. And a lot of people do that. They go ahead, they go to the land in taking it. Oh, let me take a little bit. And maybe the landowners may not really be stringent on it, but they give you a document which will limit what you have. And therefore you will not own. And many people have done that years. Some even with just verbal agreements. So he went there, he bought this. So I want extra. say, oh, fine, I'll give you the extra. But they never reduced it in writing.
Extra like
yes, it's not what it's just like that. That's how I say, and they do it. And we've done that trust based on trust. People have gone ahead and made transactions that have now become problems for generations after.
I have a question from a viewer.
Yes.
He says, we have an indenture we attempted to register it.
Yes.
It didn't go through successfully.
Yes.
On so many occasions, they said when they plotted, someone else's name appears.
Yes.
We have built and we have lived on the land for the past 30 years, and no one has approached us to litigate or claim the land since we started and completed the property. Why doesn't the Land Commission want to register the land for us?
So this one would burden the Lands Commission with additional inquiry. So Lands Commission has had records since the 90s, since Ghana was. So we have people who may have registered the land, never took possession. There are people who also, based on the survey at that time, there may be 4 properties away from this property, but on paper, it seemed to reflect a certain location. So we do further inquiries. The first thing as a public servant will be to reject. And they can then say, oh no, I'm there. So we do processes. We come and inspect. Sometimes we'll come and look at where you stay. We'll ask your neighbors just to have a confirmation. But there's hope is not lost. Under the limitations decree also, they've stayed more than 12 years. So they can make a case. What people do often is that they take Lands Commission's word as if it was sacrosanct. I write to you, write back. And show me further evidences by which I should be able to progress. And this, we've done some continued, giving maybe provisional certificate, which will grow into a full certificate, or gone ahead to give a certificate based on the evidences that we have of the location. So hope is not lost. And they can
Hope
write
is not
back.
lost.
They can write back to
What
us.
do I do when I do not have documents for a land that, for instance, I inherited from my grandparents?
Okay, so there are options. You can do a site plan, do a search, and find out who the landowners in documentation wise are. You can approach them and say, look, you remember my grandparents have been here all the time, they don't have a document. That's one way. You can also go and do what we call the statutory declaration, where it's the weakest form of title, but you are telling everybody that I, Timothy, have stayed on this land for this, my grandparents have lived here. That becomes what we call an instrument, and then you can then register with the site plan attached to it. But if somebody comes to challenge that in the future, that is weaker than getting a lease or something from the landowner. So what people do simply, they do a site plan, they do a search. Maybe it's for some stool, some family. They know you. Maybe even it's a family you are part of. Then you approach them to give you a formal documentation.
There are a number of people who are discouraged by the length of time it takes to get their land registered or even acquire their land certificate. And so they do not, because a friend did it and it took them so long a time to get it, then they are discouraged and they sit back. What do you have to say about that? It's interesting.
I have been at places to have a conversation, and the person is even sharing his grandmother's experience. So that last place that I don't know. I said, MFA, calm down. When's the last time you came there? Then she recounted a poor experience sometime in the early 2000s, or she came there with her parents. You know, we are an institution that is suffering from a legacy issue. We have gone through paces. The country has had new laws. So, for instance, the Land Act 2020, because of problems such as this, set a time limit for registration. The first time in our laws, where the law says in 90 days, if the commission should be able to communicate to the person whether it can register the document or not, if it meets all the requirements. So you can see that once laws are established that way, for instance, searches, the law says within 14 days, give the person his results. So
how's
the
that
laws,
going?
it's going. We are making. We talk about Accra. Many regions out of about 14 of the other regions, statistics show that we are making even less than the 14 days. In Greater Accra, because of the complexities, the last statistics show that we are doing 68% within 14 days. We are working on doing 100% because that is the target. But there are certain niggling problems. Some, the site plans submitted have issues. Some, there are problems with the documents that you have submitted to us. You give us telephone numbers, we text you back. We don't hear from you. So people should be careful what they give to us, because we'll give information back. So yes, people should be worried about the time, but we are improving. we're in a stage where you can, like I say, I dealt with somebody yesterday. Lands Commission wrote to them a year and a half ago.
Right.
About some document that they thought they had submitted but hadn't submitted. And the address they gave to us, they've not gone to check. Then they're still following up. Only for me to tell them that, no, we've written to you.
Right.
Say, we've not got the letters. This is the address you gave to us. So people should be, and we are now taking telephone numbers, trying to be more communicative by the modern ways of. So people should not be discouraged at all. What is the other flip side? If you don't register, you are opening yourself.
Talk to us about that.
Yes, when you don't register, like you are saying, if you have a dishonest landlord, he sells to you. In 4 years' time, you've not registered.
Right.
Somebody else comes to him. He say, go and do a search. It's mine. They do a search and your name doesn't appear.
So that's how
that's what happens. Yeah, the double sales happen. He sells to Mr. X. So please think of the difficulty that you put yourself in. If you say, I'm living on it, I don't care. Your kids will come to inherit, and they will inherit problems. So please start it. I always say, start it when there's no pressure and there's no need immediately, and go through the paces. Once you put it in, now we are improving. We may not be where everybody expects us to do, but there are efforts to at least try to make it better. Even the government was thinking about 1 month registration, but the law had put it at 90 days, and all is to be able to help registration go faster and therefore encourage more people to register. So within 90 days, at least we should be able to inform you whether we can progress or we cannot progress. And many people have put documents in which are not registrable, but they are still counting the time. Yes, so you can go and buy land that is government land. You didn't do a search. They're giving you a documentation. You submitted it for registration. It's not registrable because it's not government that gave it to you. People got it from wrong grantors. People have put documents. We are like a visa office. We all apply, but not everybody gets a visa. Is it? Yeah. So people just, once they submit the document, they assume that it's registrable.
Go through.
But it is not all that are registrable.
So when you do your homework well,
the begin is from the beginning. Once your search is right, the grantor has the capacity is right, you are more likely to have a smoother registration. Than somebody who takes the risk. As you indicated, the landlord didn't give you all the documents. You love the land, you've gone on it. Then he start giving you the document piecemeal later. And now it becomes helter-skelter.
Let's now talk about land leases. A number of people still do not understand why they buy land and then 50 or 70 or 90 years later, they have to go and renew it.
So
talk to us about that.
It's a principle of grant. Land, as I say, is a transaction. So there are types of grants that can be given. There can be freehold grants. They'll be made for the rest of your life. In Ghana, we all decided that stool land is in the 1992 constitution. It was in our previous constitutions. When a person is occupying a stool, who is he holding it for? In trust for his people. If he starts giving land free, what will happen to those the generations after him? So the principle is that he's a trustee. Give them for 90 years. Let them atone tenancy, because annually they'll have to pay rent to you. That money still comes to the stool to be able to keep the stool and also keep its people. So you're a trustee. It's not your personal property that you can be dishing out freehold. Otherwise, you get to a stage where the chiefs will just be chief in name.
I can imagine a situation where all land is freehold in Ghana.
In Ghana, yes. So you find out that the chiefs are in control of areas, what we call it. So they have administrative jurisdiction, but they have no ownership rights over that. What happens to the generations after them? So that's what we decided for stool land many years ago. For family lands also, we decided the same thing when the Act 1036 was passed in 2020, because there are areas, I can mention a few areas where the people are virtually landless. Imagine if government had given all the lands in government land owned areas for free. What would government be getting out of it? Not virtually nothing. But because they are leases, it's a huge source of revenue to the state.
Now, for people whose land leases have expired now, what's the Lands Commission observation with renewals like? So
there are two. You are renewed with who gave to you. So the Lands Commission itself is a landlord for those who government give leases to. So people apply to us, and then the commission goes through a process of considering your application first we must be sure that you are a good tenant.
Okay.
So you have been paying your ground rent.
Right.
If you've not been paying it, come and pay your arrears.
Okay.
Are you observing the covenants that we gave to you in our lease? So there are conditions that if you've done all that for us, then we renew at a fee. It is not free. But not at the open market price.
Right.
Which your fear should not be that we are selling it to you at the market price now. But we are valuers. We are also trained valuers, so they do some estimation for us. So the options for people will be: first, before it expires, can you apply? So that what we call under surrender renewal agreement, surrender and renew. So I'll give back, maybe 10 years is left. I'll give you back my 10 years. Give me back a longer term, so you can negotiate with your tenant, or you can wait for it to expire, which is more expensive, but you still come to your landlord. And we're happy that the Act 1036 section 50 has guaranteed renewal for every Ghanaian, whether it's in your agreement or not. For foreigners, it's not guaranteed, but they can contract it and it will still renew.
Right. So for Ghanaians, it's automatic.
It's automatic. Yes.
You have to go and see your landlord.
Yes,
in the end.
and yes, you have to see your landlord. And the landlord is, so if you bought from this family, if there's a next family head, he's your landlord. You don't need to look for that same person. If it's an individual and he's passed, his children would have followed. So that's the landlord that we're talking about.
What happens when there's a change in the head of a stool or the chief you initially bought the land from? What happens when your lease expires?
So you go to the new chief with your documentation and say, I got it from your predecessor. The lease is expiring. I want a renewal. So he is the one who executed
The reason I asked this is recently there was a Supreme Court ruling where it clarified that the Numo Mashi family of Tishi in the Greater Accra region cannot hold themselves as owners of some 70 villages. And what's happening to that now?
So it's a ruling of the Supreme Court, and land administrators are trying to figure them out. There were consequential orders out of it. They mentioned some villages, 72. There may be other ones that this family owns. If this family has made grants to other people, it's how to manage going forward, what to do. So for instance, if they say village A is not for this family, if a lease was to exist on it, at expiry, you can't go to the one who's been dispossessed. You must go to the new person. And the Supreme Court was very practical about how it should be. It should be enforced so that it doesn't lead to chaos where people will just be jumping on people. So the things that you go to the rightful owner at the time that you are going for the renewal. If there were judgments that were followed and were followed in error, at the renewal, you don't follow the same error. You go to the to the right.
If I bought a land and the initial lease was say 50 years and it expires and I go back to the chief for renegotiation and renewal, given that the Land Act guarantees automatic renewal for me as a Ghanaian, can the chief then say that no, I'm not going to give you 50 years like I did initially, I'm going to restrict it to say 10 years or 25 years?
So at any time that an opportunity for renewal comes, it's a new opportunity to renegotiate terms.
You have to be a good tenant too. I mean,
so all those things come into place. I say we've had some tenants that are not good tenants. They say obey this, use it for residential. Don't use it for some. Something as a nuisance. A nuisance. I don't want to mention what I know is nuisance, but something as a nuisance, then you come back to me to renew. That's a good opportunity to say, no, I cannot consider.
Okay, there's a question from a viewer. If I buy land that belongs to my family, what's the leasehold clause implications on me?
So it is his own family. So if he looks at the acts, it gives room for what we call usufructory interest. One is the family that has the liberty to give to you what they believe as a subject of the family they give to you.
What is a sub-lease?
Okay, so you have a lease for 99 years or 50 years. The sub will be a lesser interest than what you have. So they give you for 50. So you spent 10 years. That means it's left with 40, isn't it? And then you want to give it to me. You decide not to give all the 40 to me, but you want to give me 39. So that the 39, after the expiration of the 39, I come back to you. That's a sublease. If it was an assignment, then you give me all your interests. So that when the lease expires, I'll go to your landlord. But the sublease, he cannot bypass you to your landlord. He needs to come back to the one. So it's just sub. I'm under you. So you have 70. You're giving me 65, or you're giving me even 70 less one day.
Okay.
But it means that still you have to revert to meet the person who gave it to you. So the chief is the one who gave you a lease.
Right.
Or give you a lease. Then you give me a sub lease.
Now, for people who buy apartments, what happens? For most of the apartments in these prime locations, they are restricting leases to 50 years and 45 years. What happens when the lease expires?
So everybody is owning what they're giving to him there. If they are all owning and there's some lease agreement, then their landlord still reverts their rights to go for the renewal. So typical case. Because the apartment is owned as a land interest in land.
Okay.
It stands as an interest for you. Okay. It is not, because it's not affixed to the land. Don't get confused by that. But it's still sitting on the land. Yes. Right. And we do the plans, what we call a strata plan. So we identify that unit as a standalone unit.
Okay.
So you, that individual, can, if it's a renewal of assignment, can now come to the landlord and say, oh, I inherited 50 years, say 45 years I've last renewed it for.
So 50 people on the structure.
That's right.
So 10 apartments, 10 stories.
Yes.
Now it's only at the expiry, it's only 25 people who are willing to renew.
Yes.
What happens to the rest of the 25?
It becomes mine. It becomes the landlord's. Because once your lease expires, you don't activate renewal. Then we say you yield freely what you have.
Okay.
It is the law now that is made for provision for renewal. But that option is an option you may exercise. We've seen a few cases where foreign entities have abandoned their interest in this country, and upon renewal have written to us and say, we are not interested in this property again, we want to leave. Or for some reason, some individuals feel that they don't want to progress with the setting. Yeah, they may be building on it, but I've seen very interesting things. Yes, where people have abandoned the renewal process and said, there's a company we've folded off, we don't want to be in Africa again. They back your property and roads to us formally and completely accepted.
Maybe in other jurisdictions, you've seen instances where they pull the buildings
and redevelop them.
What's going to happen to a lot of these?
So, because it's jointly owned, even though individuals have interest, you can't pull your apartment out.
Right. Yes. Okay. Now, land rent. People still do not understand why we have to pay land rent.
So, you see, the principle of leasehold interest is that you have a landlord that every year you pay money to. And getting this opportunity, I want to tell everybody who is on government land, Advance Commission chasing them for their money. And I thank you for the platform to say we will chase them for the money. And I want to set an example. These are the prime of the prime areas. That's we know. In Accra and other areas. Leases are given to individuals. The obligations are every year you have to pay some rent for being in it. That is the principle of ground rent. If you don't pay it, you owe the landlord that money. At renewal, who activates that? At the time of wanting to sell to somebody, who wish that you pay your rent. And it's a principle of leasehold interest. Once it's a term that will end. Otherwise, imagine that you get a lease for 90 years. You have no relationship with your landlord till after 90 years. How does that relationship work?
Right.
So that's the whole idea. It's just like renting it for a short term in the house. So the ground rent is that fundamental thing. That means that it's a relationship between your landlord annually for the period.
Section 12 of the Land Act 2020 talks about issues regarding land acts. What more can you tell us about?
Yes, so this section was included because of the prevalence of activities that are seen as land guard related in urban areas, particularly in the non-urban areas, you don't see such issues, but it was beginning to rise and we thought it's a serious matter. So in this act, it raises it to between 5 to 15 years, not only for the macho man who is on the land, but those who finance them, those who encourage them, those who use inside them. So anybody who is at the back bankrolling and using people such as this to disrupt people's legitimate ownership, then if you are caught in it, they prosecute you and you are found guilty. you can't go to jail for 25. One lawyer came here whose property was being disturbed. The prosecutor, who was a policeman, he went under the criminal offences law. He then came back to tell us that he went to draw his attention and they changed the charge to draw it under the section 12. So small, we'll get to grasp with it, both as the prosecutors and the company. Some are done inadvertently. Even if I say inadvertently, not to make excuses for them. That's why the Land Act, for instance, is encouraging all the customary land. The land so these to have customary land secretariats. If you have records of what you are doing, your predecessor can look at that record and not make mistakes. But in the past, the excuse more was my predecessor sold it. As I said, you didn't develop it. Once the records are being kept properly, then it reduces the excuse that people would have to not sell. Yes.
Okay. We've had instances where people occupy land belonging to the state. And then later, the state, the government wants to redevelop the land, then people would have to be taken away. Why do we wait for people to build lives, for generations to actually be built on some of these areas before government comes in?
Government should have had the capacity.
Okay.
University which was acquired for the university. Have you ever heard Lagos land even an inch being encroached before? No, because they, as the beneficiary agency, make sure that every morning they are green security are policing the whole land. You can't put even one dot there without their permission. So sometimes the agencies, if you go to the agencies, they also may complain. We lack the resources, government. So ideally, government will prevent you from coming onto the land. But in some areas, government lost control over time and then they lost the land. And yet, I tell people, if government wants to come and acquire, come back and use the land, they won't come and pay compensation for those of you who don't have title. They'll just come and do it. If you've heard recently, the road, the Dodowa road, where highways went to break, and if you watch the road well, the reservation has always been there. People stubbornly pushed their walls into it. For years, it looked as if government was dormant. Now government has acquired the money and is breaking the walls. I drove over there just this morning, and that same person now cries victim. Yet again, it's like my friend who has pulled the swimming pool into a road reservation and is hoping that nobody ever comes.
Now he's enjoying
the swimming pool, but tomorrow, if that swimming pool goes, he's the same person who come and cry victim.
Right.
So we just obey the rules. You know where your boundaries begin and end. Your boundaries were never supposed to be in that place. Just don't put it there and make it difficult for yourself. The Side Lands Commission can give you only what it has. Until 2008, we're all different independent institutions.
Okay.
So when we came together, we have records in silos. So one record is here, and people used to conduct searches at one place, but they won't get advice from the other one. So 2 years ago, the ministry under the leadership of our current minister, and the Lands Commission under its management thought that it was wrong. So then we should then consolidate the results. So we have, when you come to Lands Commission, you are fed with one result. It will be broken up in sections, but it can tell you all that we have in our records concerning the one personal things. If there's a mortgage registered at the land title registration division, it will show. The public invested land to show, so that now we don't have people choosing forums. So first, there are 3 different independent searches. You come, you pay for one, you take it. You pay for the second, you take it. You pay for the third one, you take it. So if I'm mischievous, I just do one, and maybe there might be information in that one. The other one is very problematic. So now, consolidated, as I said, is just adding all the information that Lands has to give to you, to give to you.
And at what circumstance should I engage a lawyer when I'm buying land?
I want to say even a professional, not only a lawyer. So I say they are qualified surveyors there, because you are taking away the risk, like you said yourself. That one that we knew that there was a dispute, we conducted a search in the courts. If you didn't know and you were doing it yourself, you may be flying blind. So I always say a professional may charge you a fee, he may be a lawyer, but he would take away the risk. And in other jurisdictions, they don't, land transactions are not done by laymen. You have lawyers who do it. You have people are professionals, and their professional indemnity depends on that. If he misleads you, you can sue him for misleading you to purchase, and that's how it should be. So get people who are professional, and their integrity would be on the line. And if they mislead you to a purchase, then it will be difficult. So they are more likely to understand the dynamics of the market. If I need a mechanic to check, I cannot say because I've seen myself touch one or two things. I'm not qualified, and I'm sure to get the best. If I see a nice cast and then the chassis, the engine may be dead. Why do I go and look for a qualified mechanic? Because I want him to be sure that I'm buying the right thing. If we do that with property, we are sure to get the right thing.
We are sure to get the right thing. There are also cases where someone will sell land to you, but then they've used the land as collateral.
Yes.
What can you say?
The risk, collateral doesn't transfer the interest between me and the financial institution or the one I've collected the money from. But it's an encumbrance. So it's a fetter on your ownership. If you buy the property, you have bought it with the debt.
Right.
The debt is running with the property. So if the person defaults, you must know that you are likely to carry the burden of the default, which may end up being auctioning the property. So please, encumbrance is a risk you run. So I'll pay the people, but it's a risk. If he doesn't pay, they'll come.
Okay, Mr. Timothy Anyedo, I would like you to wrap up the conversation.
Well, first of all, I appreciate the time. I appreciate the have come. The follow-up we are getting.
Yes.
And we are willing to continue to engage. As I say, these little things we hope can help people do the right thing. So please, it all starts from where you start from. Make sure that in your buying, you're patient enough to do your search to get
people go buying land with money in their cars and with their checks ready to sign.
I've been here long enough. Most people buy land and rather check after the transaction.
Right.
And that is the biggest problem with land administration in this country. Because the impression from the person selling is that if you don't buy it now,
you lose it.
But that is the worst, that is the biggest red flag to chase. That if the person is the right proprietor of that land, he won't rush you.
Right.
And when you ask him for the documentation, he will freely yield them to you. So once he's being quiet about it, oh no, you pay. And when you pay, I'll get you the documents next week. Then you must begin to think that there's a problem with what they're saying. So please, let's all be careful when we are going to buy, and let us not do our checks after we've parted with money. Then the parties, then it becomes very, very difficult.
Oh, thanks so much. It's always an honor engaging this big man. We should have part 3 of the interview. Don't worry, we'll bring it to you. He's a very busy man. I'll try and get him. Mr. Timothy Anyedo, thanks so much for engaging us. Right, so here's where we wrap up the conversation. Thanks so much for watching. Please subscribe to our YouTube channel for more videos. My name is Ifia Fusua, and see you in our next video. Watch more of our videos as well. Bye.